Tonight, rising pressure on the NHS. COVID rates jump again as health boards tell people to avoid A&E unless it's life-threatening.
We'll speak to Professor Linda Bald about COVID cases, also making the headlines. No goodwill. Police officers say they won't work overtime in industrial action over their ongoing pay row.
What will, however, stop is the many hundreds and indeed thousands of free policing hours that are provided on a daily and weekly basis by police officers on goodwill.
In sport, the boy is back in town. Jotaro signs a 5-year deal at Celtic and says he's ready for Champions League football.
And the non-verbal Scottish teenager defying the odds to direct an award-winning film. I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. A summer COVID wave while they're still dealing with the aftermath of the last one. Thousands of beds being taken up by the delayed discharge of patients who no longer need to be there and big delays in A&E departments. It all means Scotland's hospitals remain under huge pressure.
This week, some health boards asked the public to access unscheduled and emergency care through NHS Inform, NHS 24 and their GP due to lengthy queues at A&Es. In the Lothians, however, there is a new approach aiming to ease the strain on staff and patients. Our senior reporter Gordon Cree has been to see how it works.
Hi Madison, I'm Tina, I'm one of the nurse practitioners. What's happened to you?
It's not the start to the summer holidays 15-year-old Madison would have wanted. She's found herself as a patient of the minor injuries unit at St John's Hospital in Livingston.
I'm going to order an x-ray for that for you.
So I was basically just going downstairs and I tripped over my dog's toy and I went over my ankle. The hospital was really quick with booking an appointment and getting me from the waiting room to the consulting room and all that, so it was really quickly.
An injury like that historically has meant coming to A&E, but the system here has changed.
It was the waiting that kind of put me off, and I thought I can't spend all day waiting with taking up a youngster. So it was the NHS 24. I was just chancing my luck and phone them. So between calling NHS 24 and the nurse phoning me back for an appointment, it was literally 10 minutes. It was super quick.
So in NHS Lothian, we are now scheduling minor injury patients to appointments rather than having them sit in the emergency department waiting room for long periods of time. Our minor injury specialist nurses see potentially broken bones, strains, sprains, wounds, insect bites.
Well, this is a pretty graphic example of why you shouldn't just turn up at the front door of A&E. In the last 10 minutes or so, 5 or 6 ambulances have arrived here, and they, of course, will all take priority. The most recent figures show that across Scotland, for patients coming to emergency departments, more than a third had to wait longer than 4 hours to be admitted, transferred or discharged. For almost 800 patients in that week, the wait was longer than 12 hours. With the St John's pilot now being rolled out across the Lothians, they hope more patients can be treated in the right place.
For those patients, for example, that have collapsed, who have chest pain, we would still advise the route is 999. We are not advising that patients who have an emergency are using this service. It's patients who require to be seen and have an urgency, but not in any emergency situation.
As for Madison, it turns out she's broken her ankle. Having made an appointment, she was checked, x-rayed and treated in under an hour and can now go home. If she'd just turned up at A&E, chances are she'd still be waiting. Gordon Cree, STV News, Livingston.
Well, the pressures mentioned in Gordon's report come at a time when COVID cases are once again rising. Figures show that 1 in 18 people had coronavirus in Scotland last week.
That's up from 1 in 20 the week before. Well, earlier I spoke to Professor Linda Bald and asked what was driving this new wave of infections. Professor Bald, what's driving this new wave of infections then?
Well, we're still in the Omicron wave, but we've got these Omicron sublineages, BA4 and 5, and they have what's called a growth advantage, so they're spreading more quickly. And that is really the main thing behind this. And they're also able to reinfect people. So quite a few people have had COVID in the past, and they're picking it up again, and that's contributing to these numbers.
It's spreading quickly, but is it more lethal than the other variants?
We don't have any evidence to date yet that these sublineages of Omicron are causing more severe disease. We do have more people in hospital. We have about 1,300 people in hospital now with COVID. That's up from around 600 at the beginning of the month. But that's just adding to the numbers. It's not saying that people are becoming more unwell.
So it is still some way below the record high at the peak of Omicron. Do you think it could get worse?
Well, interestingly, if you look at the ONS infection survey, we've seen another rise this week, but it's not as big as the rise the week before. So I'm really hoping that things will actually level off. Of course, schools have now broken up across Scotland. Some people are not having all those indoor interactions. So if you look at Portugal, they've been ahead of us in this wave, and they're now seeing a decline. So I hope that will occur over the next few weeks.
But Scotland seems to be faring worse than the rest of the UK. Why do you think that might be?
It's difficult. You know, we've waxed and waned through the pandemic. These comparisons are tricky. I think we were at quite a high level earlier in the spring, just before the summer. And now these Omicron variants, of course, have added to that wave. So I think it's more that we started from a high base rather than that things have deteriorated here more quickly.
So do you think it might be time to put measures back in place, like wearing masks in crowded areas? Would that help?
Well, I would always say, you know, look at what's happening. Are there high levels of infection in the community? There are at the moment. So the practical things that we can do that are not restrictions, they're basic protections. Wearing a face covering in busy enclosed public places. Think about hand and respiratory hygiene. Recognising some people are more vulnerable and thinking about them. These are not big things for us to do, and we can all do them.
Thank you very much for joining us on the STV News at 6, Professor Linda Bold.
Now to the latest action being taken by workers in a dispute over pay. As of 5 o'clock, police officers have withdrawn their goodwill, meaning they'll not start shifts early or be available to be contacted when off duty.
Officers in Scotland can't take strike action. The body representing staff says there should be no change to the service the force is able to provide, as Sasha Spratt reports.
This is the most severe move police officers can take and is the closest they can get to a full walkout. By law, those working in Scotland's force are banned from taking formal industrial action. But the Scottish Police Federation says the withdrawal of goodwill shows the significant level of discontent within ranks. This dispute, like many in recent weeks, comes down to pay. Union bosses have already rejected a rise of £564, describing it as derisory.
It's terrible. It's under-minimum. Things like turning up to your work an hour early to get yourself prepared and then working on at night without getting paid for it. Things like you planned a holiday or you planned something with your kids and it has to get cancelled because something's happened. This is the goodwill things that the public in general don't see.
Staff will no longer start shifts early or take radios home, but the union says the move will not impact public safety.
There is absolutely no reason why the public should notice any difference in the service that's provided to them. The same service to victims of crime that was available before 5 o'clock this afternoon will be available this evening. Police officers can be required to work anywhere, anytime, at any place and for any duration at the behest of the Chief Constable. So there's no reason that is going to stop. What will, however, stop is the many hundreds and indeed thousands of free policing hours that are provided on a daily and weekly basis.
Police Scotland say they are committed to seeking a settlement. The First Minister is urging parties to work constructively. Talks are expected to resume on Monday in the hope a deal can be done. Sasha Spratt, STV News.
Holidaymakers face a weekend of travel misery as cabin crew go on strike. Both Ryanair and EasyJet staff in Spain have walked out over pay and working conditions.
Yes, dozens of flights to some of Europe's busiest destinations have been cancelled during the first weekend of the peak summer holiday period. Well, Caroline Lewis is at Edinburgh Airport for us now. Caroline, the summer of travel discontent continues.
It absolutely does. And there'll be a lot of people travelling this weekend because, of course, for many families, tomorrow marks the start of the school summer holidays. And I'm sure there's a lot of people jetting off to get some sun. But for those heading to Spain, it's now going to be an anxious wait to see if they're actually going to take off. And that disruption's set to continue over the next few weeks because EasyJet staff are currently on strike for 3 days, but they'll also be striking every other weekend throughout July. Ryanair cabin crew are also on strike today and tomorrow, but the airline says it's not hugely supported and so disruption is minimal. But with all this going on, are passengers worried?
Nope, feeling good. Looking forward to our holiday.
We've just been constantly checking the phone, but apparently they're still going, so yeah.
And no dramas so far?
No dramas. Checked this on time, but whether that'll be the case in an hour's time, I'm not sure.
Take it as it comes, see what happens. As long as we get out there, it'll be fine. Don't care about coming back.
Well, and of course, these strikes come at a time when airports are already struggling with staff shortages, which we have seen cause delays at some airports, and they're now struggling to hurriedly recruit to keep up with demand. Well, here at Edinburgh Airport, they say they're well staffed and well prepared for the weekend ahead, but they are issuing some advice to passengers, namely, don't turn up too early for your flight, which they have seen a lot of people doing, and before you head to security, make sure all your liquids are separated and your electricals are out of your bag so that you're not the one that's causing delays by doing it once you're in the queue.
OK, Caroline, at Edinburgh Airport, many thanks for that. Well, time now for other stories across Scotland. And legal aid practitioners have been offered an £11 million funding package by the Scottish Government in a bid to avoid potential strike action. The deal would see solicitors' fees increase by 10%. Community Safety Minister Ash Regan says it's a credible offer.
The next round of hearings in the Scottish Hospitals inquiry have been postponed. Evidence had been scheduled to be heard between October and December in the public inquiry investigating safety issues at two of Scotland's newest hospitals in Glasgow and Edinburgh. The Red Hot Chili Peppers have called off their live performance in Glasgow tonight due to an unspecified illness. The band was set to conclude the European leg of their tour at Bellahouston Park. No date has been set for the gig to be rescheduled.
The annual memorial for those who've lost their lives to mesothelioma, a rare asbestos-related cancer, has been held in Glasgow. Latest figures show there were more than 2,000 deaths from mesothelioma in the UK in 2019.
People are still having to face the risk of being exposed to asbestos, and it's not right, it's negligent. It's negligent because we know the dangers and we know what's happening.
A consultation into proposals that would see restaurants forced to put calorie counts on their menus has closed today. The Scottish Government plans could lead to food outlets being made to inform customers on menus, apps and notices at buffets.
However, it's been branded controversial and has been met with criticism by both eating disorder charities and the hospitality sector. Polly Bartlett reports.
Tommy Kelly suffered 2 heart attacks and saw his football career end after health complications from bulimia and anorexia took over his life.
I would always go for the lower calorie option, and I would obviously, if I did have something that was like more calories in it, I would obviously exercise more to compensate that as well, and it would further feed into my eating disorder, and I would feel like guilt, shame and everything like that, and I would basically be controlled by the numbers.
He says adding calories to menus will make recovery more difficult for people with eating disorders. But health officials insist the proposal will help reduce obesity levels by making diners aware of their food choices.
We eat out of home a lot more than we used to, and the evidence would suggest that calorie labelling encourages changes in behaviour. We choose different foods. It also encourages places to reformulate. There are some impacts on the businesses as well and how healthy the offering is that they give.
Similar legislation was introduced in England earlier this year. However, this deli says the plans should be served up with caution.
Coming out of the pandemic, and we've got the cost of living crisis and the cost of ingredients are going up, the cost of oil has risen, and having this as another thing that we have to be aware of and conscious of, it just puts a lot of pressure on the smaller businesses. I think it's quite misleading when you just include calorie content. It's not necessarily illustrative of what a healthy balanced, nutritious meal is. You know, sometimes salad dressings have more calories than a naughty burger. How's that?
The government wants to make sure that we all know what we're eating, but there are concerns the plans could have a damaging impact. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Glasgow.
Tackling the stigma of addiction is an ongoing challenge for those working in the field and the people in need of support. Today in Stirling, groups from across Scotland gathered together for the Recovery Olympics. The aim is to learn more from each other and celebrate success through sport. Sharon Frew has been speaking to those taking part.
On your mark! It's not the winning, but the taking part that counts. Well, for some competitors. From the stands, enthusiastic support from those who know just how far many have come. Scott Ferguson now works for the Forth Valley Recovery Community, but 6 years ago he was turning to them for help while in the grip of his addiction.
I've lost two brothers to addiction. I lost my older brother just about 3 years ago, and I couldn't try to support him. There was family members and old associates and friends that used to say to me when my brother passed, Scott, we thought that would have been you. You know, I'd been on and off a methadone programme for 25, 26 years, and I thought that was my life, you know, and I thought that, and I thought believing in myself in the beginning was massive, you know, and it was that inspiration for seeing other people doing it, and it gave me that wee spark of life in me that maybe I could do that as well.
This is the first time since the pandemic that this event could be held on this scale, with groups travelling from the borders and beyond to compete. Lorraine relapsed during lockdown. The connection she found within the group she attends in North Lanarkshire is helping her to make progress.
I wouldn't have survived another relapse. I wouldn't survive another relapse. It nearly killed me, the last one, so I had enough was enough. Time to start living my life. I'm young enough, so time to start living. And this is my longest time in recovery this time, but it's working this time. I wasn't ready before. I'm ready this time. I'm more than ready now. See, when you see the amount of people that is going through the same as you, it gives you strength. It makes it a bit easier.
So many people in addiction are stigmatised, they're treated differently, and they don't actually know that things like this exist, that you can come somewhere with your family and your friends and you can connect and have a great day and you can be substance free. I think with stuff like this and people in recovery being vocal and shown, it's challenging stigma, but it's not going to go away straight away. And it's the issues of accessing treatment and things like that, everything will take time. But as long as we're out, we're vocal, we're showing that recovery is possible, it's just about making small changes every day.
The drugs minister was there to show her support to competitors who are at different stages of their recovery. Those here today know tackling the country's addiction crisis is a marathon, not a sprint. Sharon Frew, STV News, Stirling.
Rahman's here with the sport and even more transfer news.
Indeed, John. First, Cameron Carter-Vickers was first to sign, then Ben Siegrist joined from Dundee United, and then yesterday we had Alexandro Bernabeu. Today, Jota has re-signed for the club.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Jota admits the chance of playing in the Champions League this season played a key part in his decision to return to Celtic. The winger has signed a 5-year deal as he completed his near £6.5 million transfer from Benfica. It's the sight Celtic fans have been longing to see. Jota, once again, wearing the green and white hoops. After his loan spell last season, the fans' favourite is back at Parkhead for another 5 years, and he admits he was always keen on a return.
The experience that I had last season was amazing, so I think it was an easy choice to make. I'm really happy on staying here. That's what I want for me, and I just can't wait to develop more under the team and to conquer a lot of things.
Jota was one of the standout players for Celtic last season, scoring 13 goals with 14 assists. This season he has a chance to play in the Champions League, and the winger admits this was a major draw.
Champions League is probably the best competition in the world of clubs, right? So of course it's always a trigger for a player to come and play in the Champions League. We have to be honest about that, and I'm no exception. It was something that I really liked it, and to live this moment in this club, everyone kept on saying to me like, Jota is something special, so you better stay in Celtic. So it happened.
He was part of a team that won 2 trophies last season, and Jota is keen to land more silverware this campaign.
Meanwhile, fresh from Andy Murray's Wimbledon exit, Davis Cup captain Leon Smith says the former world number 1 is really keen to play in the event. Britain will face the United States, Kazakhstan and Netherlands when the Davis Cup comes to Glasgow in September.
We've already chatted about it, and he's really keen to be part of this, and he wants to play and he wants to be part of the team, and he'll know, like the others, that it's a really strong group of players this now, both for singles and doubles, that we have to see how the summer goes. Yes, he'll want to play every single match, but he also brings a lot more to the team.
Rugby, and Grant Gilchrist says he's not looking at captaining Scotland beyond the summer tour of South America. Gilchrist will lead the team for the first time since 2018 when the Scots face Argentina in the first of 3 tests tomorrow. Stuart Hogg, who has skipped the side for the last 2 years, has been rested for the tour.
I'm not one to look beyond the immediacy. I'm honoured to be asked to captain this tour, and that's all I'm going to concentrate on. I think there's a number of guys who've been in leadership groups who have captained the team over the last few years who've done an outstanding job. I just want to make sure that I do a good job for this tour.
Now, Scotland's most decorated Commonwealth athlete, Alex Marshall, says he's hungrier than ever to add to his 5 gold medals as he gets set for the Games in Birmingham. The 55-year-old made his Games debut almost 30 years ago, and as he prepares for his 7th appearance, we sent our very own bowler Ronnie Charters to take on the greatest of all time.
In the quiet setting of Gifford Bowling Club resides a Commonwealth legend, Alex Tatty Marshall, the most decorated athlete ever to represent Team Scotland with 5 gold medals and a silver.
Playing in Canada, going back 1994, a long time. This will be my 7th Commonwealth Games, but it's hard to believe how you can get seven Commonwealth Games, but that's the sport allows us to do that. I think we'll always go to any games with to win a medal, whichever colour, bronze, silver or gold, but with the team that we've got, I think we'll be looking for gold medals.
Alex Marshall and the sport of lawn bowls was propelled into the spotlight at Glasgow 2014. 3 golds and a silver, with Tatty clinching a double. But he'll forever be remembered for this famous celebration after an important semi-final win over England.
I've never ever played 2 bowls like that in my life, but to do it against the old enemy, it was just fantastic. And a lot of people thought that I was getting a bit of hassle from the crowd and stuff, but I kind of got reprimanded, for my celebration. But it was a celebration more than anything else. It was just because we got over the line, got to play in the gold medal playoff. But it's a celebration that I would never take back, and that'll live with me for the rest of my life.
But despite a glittering career, Marshall was about to face his toughest test yet. A one-end shootout against me. As the end unfolded, the 21-time world champion did what he does best. Advantage Marshall with the final bowl to come. What happened next will go down, always very close, in history. Get in there! Unfortunate, Alec, well done. This man's heading to the Commonwealth Games in a couple of weeks' time, hoping to strike gold again. He's got to do better than that, though.
Oh, you just know we're never going to hear the end of this from Ronnie. And fair play to Tatty Marshall for being such a great sport. That is all sport for me tonight, folks. I'll see you again next week.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Time now for the weather with Sean. And come on, Sean, please, don't let us down, eh?
The outlook for the day is calm and settled. TUI Blue Hotels, Sponsor STV Weather.
Well, it's been another day where we've seen those big clouds bubble up, some heavy showers in places, more of the same to come tomorrow, although some spots will do pretty well. Now, as we go through tonight, we've got a band of more prolonged rain coming through, some heavy bursts as well. The bulk of that rain will come through, though, in the early hours. Temperatures about 12 or 13 degrees, no 8s and 9s on the map. Temperatures staying about the mid-50s in Fahrenheit because of the cloud and the rain. Now, early tomorrow morning, 7, 8 o'clock, there shouldn't be too many showers around, but then really they start to bubble up, especially across central, eastern and southern areas. That's where the bulk of the showers will be. Across western areas, a lot of drier and brighter weather. And let's have a look at that. Because of that westerly airflow, the likes of Jura, Isla, Colonsay, Gia and Kintyre are seeing plenty of sunshine. However, we will see some showers coming in here later on in the afternoon, probably about 5, 6 o'clock. The same also across Bute and Argyll, plenty of sunny spells, any morning showers clearing away eastwards. As we run into Renfrewshire, East Bartonshire, Glasgow, the possibility of 1 or 2 showers still here at 3 o'clock, but the bulk of them will be further east across lights of Western Fife, Stirlingshire, Falkirk, Clickmannshire and West Lothian. But even here, those showers should ease by the end of the day. Many of us ending the day fine and dry. Temperatures still very disappointing for July, 16 degrees Celsius. A breezy day to come on Sunday. The bulk of the showers this time in the west, fewest in the east. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, an 18-year-old Scottish filmmaker picked up a prestigious award at the star-studded Into Film Awards in London this week for her documentary about climate change.
Yes, Laura Boyd met with Greta McMillan, who's non-speaking, to find out all about the fascinating process behind her award-winning work.
The 2022 Changes for a Better World Award goes to Change Direction, made by Greta and Nick from Edinburgh.
This special moment, 18-year-old Greta McMillan collected her award from Scottish film star Jack Lowden and Eddie Redmayne at the Into Film Awards in London this week.
It's been the best thing ever. I am passionate about fighting climate change and love making films which help spread the message.
It's really fantastic to see so many Scottish nominees and winners. And Greta, the film that she made is not only brilliant, but it's about something very, very important like climate change. So it's a sort of double-edged sword, so it's fantastic.
Greta is non-speaking and communicates with an eye gaze, an iPad she controls words and phrases on with eye movement. She uses a wheelchair and has cerebral palsy, but she never lets that hold her back, especially when it comes to making movies.
I used my eye gaze communicator to talk about my film ideas with my mum and dad. I have pages for choosing the protagonist, the insightful incident and camera angles.
What do you hope that people will take from your work, Greta?
To show that anyone can change their impact on the planet.
And what are your hopes and plans for the future?
I want to keep being a climate activist. I want my films to make people think. I want to go to film school.
I'm really proud. It's brilliant. It's just really, it's great to see that people are being impacted by the films that you're making.
The very gifted Greta. Laura Boyd, STV News.
Gifted indeed, just incredible. Well, Laura and I will be back with What's on Scotland in half an hour's time. Hope you can join us then.
That's a lot of work you're doing, I have to tell you. I'm out of here, but thanks for watching. Good night.
Bye-bye.